On October 28, 2016, one of the most heavily tattooed and foul-mouthed wrestlers in OCW history joined. Known as Diet Parker for much of his early career, this man would go on to become a one-time Terminal Tag Champion, is one of only 6 superstars to become a multi-time world champion since 2018. He has main evented a Resolution, and even won a Wrestler of the Year award. Yet, this superstar has faced so much adversity in his career that he has on multiple occasions walked away from the wrestling ring. He has been embroiled in a long-term feud that has a very one-sided win-loss record. He's even become a meme after one of the most infamous moments in recent history. Still, this OCW superstar is a complicated character with overarching layered themes of modern-day concerns ranging from his battles with depression, alcohol abuse, and feelings of dissatisfaction with his place in the hierarchy of OCW. This is the story of Wrex.
When discussing the moments that have defined Wrex's career, even he will acknowledge that, in many ways, this match is where his rise began. Yet, it wasn't even his match at first. Earlier in 2018, Wrex had taken the FI briefcase off of Austin Lee. As fate would have it, Austin Lee would fight B-17 on Turmoil 200 in a rematch for the newly created CCW Championship after B-17 had defeated CJ O'Donnell, Malu, and Wrex in the Road to Gold CCW Elimination Tournament. B-17 would emerge victorious against Austin Lee that night. And then,
Can you hear Valhalla call? Will you die in there tonight?
Wrex cashed in, even going as far as to say, fuck the B community. The viewing party erupted. They had good reason to be optimistic. Many, including owner JCS, felt that this was Wrex's time to emerge as a main eventer on Turmoil, and earlier that year Wrex had crushed B-17 at Turmoil 184 in 5 minutes and 38 seconds after the latter had returned from a long hiatus. So, considering that Wrex had easily dispatched B-17 earlier that year, along with B-17 starting yellow head, red body, and yellow leg damage, it was easy to disregard the Road to Gold match. Now, a note about some of the rules that have since been changed that might be new to some of our newer members.
The first thing that needs to be noted is in 2018, world champions were allowed to use resiliency. This essentially ensured that a first finisher hit would not end the match, as the user would not only have a single opportunity to kick out on 2, but if they missed, they would be able to use resiliency to ensure a kick out. The second and more vague rule that needs to be discussed is that surrounding the FI itself. The rules governing the FI state that those who cash in receive a title shot of their choosing, dependent on approval. After the standard match, you can choose to showcase it as you wish, through storyline or airing the actual match. However, there have been a few examples of title holders starting matches damaged, as was the case with Wrex cashing in against B-17 for the actual match itself. Due to the rules essentially mitigating the potential match from before, the successful cash-in rate since 2016 is only 50%. Only 4 out of 8 have been successful. It should be noted, however, that not all cash-ins took place directly after a match, some of them taking place before to ensure a placement within the match itself. Anyways, back to Wrex cashing in against B-17.
The match starts off in a fairly typical Wrex fashion, with both men exchanging strikes. Wrex eventually uses an eye rake and goes for a roll-up that results in a 2, but sudden death didn't exist at this time, so the pin was only for flavor. Wrex goes for a kick, but gets majored, and B punches the shit out of him. Wrex is only single yellow a few minutes into the match, and B17 is clearly in control. Wrex is able to avoid a high sensational moonsault and then throw around B17. He builds up momentum and gets a sig and removes the turnbuckle. Things are looking pretty good at this time. However, things go south real quickly, and Wrex turns single orange, and then orange head, and yellow body from a dropkick. At this point, the viewing party is still fairly certain Wrex can pull this off, but doubt is starting to creep in. Then the turn happens. Wrex head turns red after reversal exchange. He can now be finished. But instead, he hits his finisher first. Now, remember what I said about champions having resiliency? Well, this ends as you would expect. B17 kicks out a 2. Wrex continues to beat the crap out of B17 and nails a leaping pile driver off the apron and onto the floor. Wrex then gets a bit greedy and tries to hit a finisher onto the steel ramp, but is reversed and now has no finishers. To add insult to injury, B17 hits a sig instead. B17 now has 2 finishers, but is down 4 reversals to 1. Things may look bad for Wrex, but he still has the reversal advantage. That reversal advantage doesn't come into play. Wrex makes his biggest error of the match and picks up a chair, which B17 promptly takes advantage of and bingo punches Wrex before he can react. A 3 count later, and Wrex has lost his FI cash-in, and this moment spawns one of the greatest images in OCW history.
Now, all that being said, the loss didn't actually send Wrex out of the main event picture, as less than a month later, he was involved in a fatal 4-way with Trance, B17, and Austin Lee for the CCW Championship at Resolution 12. Unfortunately for Wrex, he would eat the pin to Austin Lee, but then he would go on to main event the next Turmoil, and that's when he made Code Jackman the man in the box. But he still felt like this point was the rock bottom for him, and that things needed to change.
Wrex didn't wait long for change and bounced back incredibly quickly from his championship shortcomings by finding an angry Puerto Rican, Jay Fury, wasting away in developmental. At Turmoil 204, they declare, "We're not here to establish a new world order. We're simply letting you see what society is really all about. A society of anger, of sleazebags, of assholes, people who just don't care. A society of the worst we have out there. A society of scum. A scum society." The birth of Scum Society would go down as a turning point in the career of Wrex, helping him become the Wrex that we see today. Immediately, they started causing problems, ruining main events, calling out Turmoil staff, and in general being scummy to just about everyone, in a run-up to Summerside, where they would fight Code Jackman and CJ O'Donnell, who formed earlier on the pre-show. Code had originally held the titles with Tay Terror, and CJ had been tagging with Ricky as the Celtic Dragons. The match starts off with an incredibly dark entrance, but Scum Society has a strobe effect because it's cheaper than Pyro. Fear, the newly formed tag team, showcase a new grim look that is a huge departure from CJ's previous upbeat and colorful attire. Wrex opens up the action with Code Jackman. These two men have been feuding since before Wrex put Code into the box, but it has been relatively one-sided, and Code has often found himself on the wrong end of the win-loss column. Wrex takes control early through heavy strikes and keeping Code off balance with his timing. Wrex had always been seen as a striker, but since his loss to B17, he has embraced a much more aggressive moveset. Much of that can probably be contributed to working with Jay Fury and the gimmick shift. It proves effective, however, as he overwhelms Code early. CJ fares better and Wrex tags out. Jay Fury isn't even damaged and channels his inner trance and punches the iris out of CJ into the corner while Wrex is still recovering on the outside. CJ's head is now orange and Fear is falling farther and farther behind in the damage. CJ turns single red but wisely tags Code to face Fury. Wrex tags back in on a corner double team knee kick to the back of the head combo. Things go from bad to worse when Wrex majors a suplex attempt by Code and whips him into the corner. Code's head has now gone orange and soon turns red after a top rope spike DDT by Wrex. Code starts pulling the match even and hits a leg drop and a jack in the box out of nowhere, and then follows up with another leg drop. The damage is starting to even out and Wrex has lost his spacing against Code, who starts hanging back and forcing Wrex to come to him. CJ tags in and so does Jay Fury. CJ starts putting together some offense by using the same strategy that Code had used by forcing Jay to come forward more. CJ makes an error and gets caught for a neckbreaker on the ropes by Wrex. Both men are down. Advantage is still Scum Society. Fury is up first after a really nice sequence and tries to hit a falling headbutt. CJ reverses and hits a running knee instead. Fury rolls out. Code tags in but eats a beautiful turnbuckle assisted stomp. Wrex tags in and uses Code's strategy against him, forcing him to come forward now. Miss a move and then he hits a finisher. CJ tries to break it up, but Fury hits a running kick, and 1, 2, 3, it's over. The new CCW Tag Team Champions, Scum Society. Now, was the result unexpected? Well, it's hard to argue that Scum Society wasn't the heavy favorites going into Summerside. Jay Fury was controlled by the same handler that plays Jacob Trance, more familiar to the new members as Archer and Mark Reese, so he's pretty damn good. And Jamie was certainly motivated to help Wrex succeed. I identified his potential early on, and I liked the fact that he listened to advice, according to Trance. After the match with B-17, he needed reheating and some time away to develop his character more. So this was the perfect storm, to get into the tag scene and work on his character whilst being able to learn a little bit more game savvy. The run obviously went way better than was anticipated, and proved to be a key factor in his overall success. It wasn't like Wrex was struggling without Fury on the sticks. Overall, through Season 13, he had compiled a record of 17-8 for a 68 win percentage without Fury, and then in Season 14, compiled an 18-6 record for a 75 win percentage. While the major losses to B-17 and at Resolution hurt, they were not indicative of lack of ability. Instead, they highlight a common theme throughout his career, one that we're going to discuss a little bit more later. No, it wasn't the in-ring ability that Fury helped Wrex with, it was something that had always been slightly lacking from Wrex: character development and writing. Scum Society would hold the belts for a short time before losing them to Austin Lee and Aries at Devil's Night, but Wrex was ready to move on to bigger things.
The Clash 2019 Wrex vs. Trance CCW Championship. We've since moved on to WWE 2K19, and the redemption of Wrex has been slowly boiling to an eruption for the past few months, ever since his loss to B-17. But standing between him and that redemption is the form of a very imposing and fat Jacob Trance. Trance had defeated Austin Lee at Summerside 2018 and was 97 days into his title reign. At this time, this was actually the longest reigning modern-day CCW champion, as no one had been able to hold onto the belt for a few months past this point. Trance had also held the OCW Championship, and is still to this day considered one of the best on the sticks. Not only just now, but of all time. So to say that a win for Wrex would be monumental would be a massive undersell. So just a reminder, 2K19 is still new at this point, and the transition usually causes a fair share of reevaluation of skill levels. while the usual faces have consistency to fall back on, there's always some surprises in terms of the wins and losses. The match starts off in typical Wrex fashion, brutal but effective striking and eye rakes. The JCS tells everyone that Wrex looks like he smells like pee, and, well, it's hard to argue with him, but what are you gonna do? Wrex is firmly, however, in control to start the match. Wrex tries to hit a dropkick, but Trance knows to watch the dropkick and puts Trance in control with one reversal each. Trance picks Wrex up and shows him that, hey, I know how to strike too. Wrex is able to reverse and picks up a reversal advantage, but a violent spinning clothesline takes his soul. Wrex eats a ton of punches in the corner and the fight is even. It has been a messy fight. Even the wrestling moves have been of questionable technique. Trance is working behind with reversals, but he's using a slight delay in his grapples, and Wrex still hasn't caught on to the pause, which is allowing Trance to stay in the match, even with Wrex having caught Trance with quite a few barrages of strikes. Damage is even after some more punches to the head by Trance. I had forgotten how hard hitting this match is, but it's fantastic to watch. Trance almost kills himself hitting a dive out of the ring, but luckily, Wrex catches him with his neck. Trance's head turns red on a running DDT, but he still has resiliency, so Wrex has a long road to travel before this match is his. An awesome sequence of reversals leads right into a rear naked choke toss by Wrex. That was beautiful. I love it when counters lead right into signatures or fins. Speaking of finishers, Wrex is going for one. Trance counters, but now Trance has no reversals. Wrex, however, still can't figure out the change in timing and needs a DDT. Wrex turns red, and now it's Trance's turn for a wake-up. Trance pulls out all the tricks and sufficiently has Wrex guessing, and manages to hit the code breaker. But Wrex kicks out at 1. Trance, determined to put Wrex away, hits a frog splash through the table. But instead of taking the count out, he throws Wrex back into the ring. Now, here's where a controversy strikes. A wild Mystico appears, and hits a running kick on Trance and throws him back in. Wrex, now a bloody mess, wakes up Trance from the corner and hits a code breaker of his own. One, two, three. Wrex is your new CCW champion through devious means. Now, not quite the redemption story in the traditional sense, but at this time Wrex isn't the type of character that has proven he can do it alone yet. From having brought up Jay Fury to utilizing Mystico, who has always been kind of a one step forward, two steps back kind of person, Wrex is still developing into a character that doesn't need to rely on others, but hopefully those days are soon to come. Wrex would go on to have a respectable 77-day run and beat Jacob Trance in a career versus championship steel cage match at Certified Greatness 2019. But then, he would lose it to B17 at Road to Glory. However, something unique happened that night. During the match with B17 at Road to Glory 2019, there was a noticeable shift that took place during the viewing party. While the crowd was firmly behind B17 at the start, early domination, followed by a mutant dive for his sins, and a pop-up bingo punch, it became very clear. The fans wanted Wrex to win. While he may have lost that night, Wrex walked away from the match with a much brighter future, one that would lead him right through a Scum Society death match, and then against a man himself that wanted to kill Turmoil, to a Samoan bulldozer. Now, if the story has seemed depressing so far, I promise it will get better, but I'm going to let somebody who's a little bit more poetic than myself explain why. According to Max Edwards, Wrex very much fits into the common modern hero, or even the lost redeemed villain character archetype. He has a very distinct flaw that drives his character's decision, good or bad. Another part of that is having an allied character, Fury, Christian Garcia, or Azu, as a catalyst for positive change that corrects the hero's flaws and makes them a better person, and helps them to complete their arc. To continue down this line, B-17 would be the perfect opposition, an antagonist even, depending on how you view Wrex, as B-17 is a foil, a perfect opposite to Wrex's character and his flaws, and B-17 stands in the way of him turning it around and redeeming himself. I believe that Max has put it perfectly. Wrex is driven by external motivations to fix his internal inadequacies. His pursuit for the title, and later on his pursuit for money, is always solely tied into his desire to find satisfaction to create self-worth. This is what I believe makes Wrex such a relatable character. He struggles with depression, anxiety, and alcoholism, but he doesn't shy away from these traits. Instead, they are foundations. We cheer for him to overcome these obstacles because he is a representation of our own desires to overcome. He is constantly knocked down, but he returns to fight and try again. This mirrors what Max had said earlier about redeeming himself. It is a constant fight to find internal satisfaction. Nothing has defined this fulfillment of the hero's journey or showed the true character potential more so than Wrex vs. Malu.
On August 7th, 2019, at Riot 540, Wrex and Malu would kick off a 3-match series that is considered by Wrex as some of the most important matches in his OCW career. It was not the first time that they had fought. Back in 2018 at Turmoil 195, Wrex had come up short to the recently unretired Malu. So, context for those of you who don't know who Malu is the first ever man to hold the CCW title. He is a 2-time champion and holds the 3rd longest reign at 111 days. So Wrex losing wasn't seen as much of a surprise, but over a year later at Riot 540, expectations were significantly different. By this time, bald and with more facial hair, more tattoos, calling himself Mr. Turmoil, and fresh off a victory over Paul Pugh, Wrex was now a former CCW champion facing the current CCW champion Malu in a non-title match. In what commentator Angus would call disgusting brutality, Wrex pulled off the upset after hitting Malu with 3 unanswered finishers. Compared to the match from the previous year, Wrex showcased a much more confident handle. His spacing was significantly better and his moveset much more diverse. His reliance on duck unders to close space was no longer as prominent, and his reversal timing was much improved, especially his escape of Malu's first finisher attempt with the running power slam when he hit the major reversal. At Summerside 2019, they would meet again, this time for the CCW Championship. A blistering start saw both men trading reversals, until Wrex was able to seize control with the usual headbutts, elbows, and knees. The damage distribution was firmly in Wrex's advantage after only a few minutes, and he stayed on Malu with close resets as he looked to overwhelm Malu fast. An ill-timed taunt by Malu allowed Wrex to further the gap with his vintage rope-hung running knee. A Scum wing hoot got a laugh from Jay and a pop from Jake, while the viewing party watched in mostly stunned disbelief. It wasn't necessarily that Wrex didn't have the skill to compete, but he had started to develop a history of the yips in bigger matches. But against Malu, strategy didn't matter, and the aggressiveness and assertive moveset was all coming together in a very distinct Wrex style. Unfortunately for Wrex, a finisher reversal by Malu was followed by a Samoan chokeslam, followed by an elevated gut-wrench German suplex. And, just to add insult to injury, Malu dropped his 320-pound frame onto his chest. Now, we're talking about Malu here. He was the first CCW champion, but we didn't talk about the handler. This handler has held single titles 11 separate times. Between Malu, Tobin Frost, but only for 4 minutes, Shepard, and of course, the greater than GOAT, Nate Ortiz, 11 separate reigns as a singles champion. And that's with incomplete records. So, it wasn't really surprising when he did this. It was now even. Regardless of the fast start, a new Wrex trend was about to begin. The gas out. Thanks for coming out. It looks like the Wrex redemption arc stops here. Maybe not. But I think it's best you just watch for yourself. But the biggest party of the summer wasn't the end. Wrex would have one last shot, September to remember. Tied in their recent battles at 1 apiece, and because of the resilience of both men, they would settle this in an Iron Man match. Now keep up here. Fall 1 to Wrex. Fall 2 to Wrex. Fall 3, Malu. Fall 4, Wrex. Fall 5, Wrex. Fall 6, Malu. Fall 7, Malu. Fall 8, I'm kidding, it goes to Wrex. And your again new, redeemed CCW champion, Wrex. 2019 was a banner year for Wrex. JCS put it best when he said, "From meme to champion in a year." In 2019 alone, Wrex won his first CCW championship and would go on to hold it twice. He retired Jacob Trance, who has since returned, Austin Lee, who has since returned, beat Paul Pugh for the Soul of Turmoil, won Most Over Move of the Year, welcome to Scum Chester, had the best angle, Wrex reclaims Turmoil, and won the Wrestler of the Year award. In other words, Wrex really was Mr. Turmoil. Hang on. I said was. This is, after all, wrestling. More importantly, this is OCW, and in OCW, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Unfortunately for Wrex, the nefarious, the devious, the despicable, the just plain rude, Cassidy Hayes had the CCW championship in his sights, and he had an ace up his sleeve. Wrex's sometimes friend, sometimes enemy, but full-time tormentor, V17, had turned his back on Turmoil. In many ways, this was the death of Wrex. It's a close to his book, so to speak. He would unsuccessfully try and reclaim his crown, and the doubt and the sadness that had consumed him before would return. In a poetic twist, the man that started his downfall in both cases was B-17, a man who was the opposite of him in so many ways. Maybe it's not fair to claim that this is the end, as Wrex has since reformed and returned as Alistair Ross, shedding the persona that led him to such highs and such drastic lows. Alistair finds himself following very similar literary elements as before. Having joined Dennis Dillinger Enterprises, he is mirroring what was suggested earlier, finding solace in an ally as he navigates his choices for good or for ill. His internal motivation remains the same, but his external hunt has led him to chase money instead of legacy. Failure has led Alistair back to where it all began for him in 2018. But it led to success before. Will Wrex rise again?
Oh, fucking course I will.